a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Schitt's Creek. Schitt's Creek is a Canadian television sitcom created by Eugene Levy and his son Dan Levy, that premiered on CBC Television on January 13, 2015. The series is produced by Not a Real Company Productions. On January 12, 2015, CBC renewed the show for a second season. The second season premiered in Canada on January 12, 2016 on CBC. It was announced on February 17, 2016, that the CBC renewed the show for a third season, which began broadcasting on January 11, 2017. On March 10, 2017, the show was renewed for a fourth season, which aired on January 9, 2018 on CBC. The series has received mixed reviews since it premiered. However, it has won various accolades, including an ACTRA Award and 11 Canadian Screen Awards. Plot. The series stars Eugene Levy as Johnny Rose, a wealthy video store magnate, and Catherine O'Hara as his wife Moira, a formerly successful soap star. The family loses their fortune when their business manager fails to pay their taxes. They are forced to rebuild their lives with their sole remaining asset, a small town named Schitt's Creek, which they had bought their son as a joke birthday gift years before. The story revolves around the family's life living in two adjacent rooms of a rundown motel with their pampered 20-something adult children, David and Alexis, played by Dan Levy and Annie Murphy respectively. Additional cast includes Chris Elliott, Jennifer Robertson, and Emily Hampshire. The show is based on a series of situations contrasting the once rich family and their worldly big city attitudes with sudden small-town living and the honest, down-to-earth, hard-working residents of Schitt's Creek. Production. The series is filmed on location in Goodwood, Ontario, the regional municipality of Durham of the Greater Toronto Area, and Mono, Ontario, where the motel scenes are filmed. The interior scenes for the first two seasons were filmed at Pinewood Toronto Studios in Toronto, while the interior scenes for the third season were shot at Dufferin Gate Studios in Toronto. Reception. Schitt's Creek has received mixed reviews. On Rotten Tomatoes, the first season has a rating of 50%, based on 14 reviews, with an average rating of 6.6. The site's critical consensus reads, "The title is one of the best jokes of Schitt's Creek, but performances from Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara give the writing a comedic boost." On Metacritic, the first season has a score of 62 out of 100, based on 10 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Reactions from Canadian reviewers have ranged from raves to pans. Vinan Mine of the Toronto Star wrote that the show is not just a welcome addition to prime time, it is one of the best CBC comedies in years. John Doyle of the Globe and Mail, however, sharply criticized the show, saying, "Schitt's Creek is droll, smug, and self-satisfied. There is no edge to Schitt's Creek. It's cozy comedy and perhaps the tightness of the ensemble bound by family. Old alliances blinds them to the lack of hilarity in what they're doing. Comedy is hard and the show is soft-core comedy." Doyle concluded saying, "Many viewers will approach Schitt's Creek with advance affection. They will relish seeing Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara working together again. They will savor the father-slash-son dynamic between Eugene and Dan Levy. That's peachy too. But it will camouflage the fact that the show is as anodyne and polite as the feel-good remarks made by its stars when asked about it. It's nice and it's droll, but it fails." After being picked up by the pop, American reception has been similarly mixed. The Los Angeles Times described the show as very funny, beautifully played, sometimes touching and, though its premise is familiar, rich family loses money, quite its own animal. And the New York Post stated that the Levys nicely develop their fish-out-of-water concept by showing how the family tries to fit in out of necessity. On the other end of the spectrum, Mike Hale of the New York Times called Schitt's Creek a show that's drab and underwritten, with potentially amusing situations that never build to more than a chuckle or a nod of recognition. Yeah, that could have been funny. The series has also been noted for its portrayal of a queer, pansexual character, played by Dan Levy. International broadcast. The series was picked up in the United States by Pop and premiered on February 11, 2015. The show has also been picked up in New Zealand by TV2 and TVNZ On Demand. The 3 seasons appear, though not always together, on different streaming television services worldwide. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?